Hello, everyone. My name is Julia Keller, and I'm the double bassist in the group Strings and Hammers. And we are going to have a little chat about our new CD that is coming out on July 10th. Looks like this. And we are going to talk today with Emily Koh. And now I'm going to give the word to Simi.
Hi everyone, I'm Sini Virtanen and I play the violin in Strings and Hammers.
So this is Emily Koh. She is one of the composers that wrote a beautiful piece for us for Strings and Hammers with the McCormick Percussion Group. And this piece is called Memento Mori, and it's written for violin, a double bass, and percussion quintet. And so we are going to ask a couple of questions, and Emily can introduce the piece. And the first question I would like to ask is actually about the title itself. What does Memento Mori mean, and how did you choose this title?
So Memento Mori, the word means a symbol of death or mortality, so a reminder about life, basically. And I wrote this piece because at the time, well, actually kind of now too, I felt like there were a lot of things in our world that was dying, things that made a lot of sense to me. And I was kind of sad that, these things were going away. Things like humanity, compassion, empathy, logic, common sense, all these things that we take for granted felt like every day just like, dissociated or kind of went away a little bit more. So I wanted to write something about that. And because I'm a double bassist as well, like my bass is, oh, you can't see it, but it's there. I wanted to write like a bass concerto, but I also want to write it as like a super bass concerto in which the violin and the double bass acts as one mega string instrument. And I think part of that is because I feel like there is this suppression of, I guess, all the things that I talked about before being, going away. And I see this bass as the upholder of truth and upholder of, I don't know, just all things that made sense. And I felt like a single instrument itself wasn't quite good enough, or not good enough, like couldn't hold that meaning on its own. It needed some help. So I thought of this piece as like a super bass concerto, but like a super bass concerto where the soloists are always pitting against all the other things that we hear around, which is the percussion ensemble.
Great. Would you also like to talk about the instrumentation? So you already mentioned the concept of super bass, which was so cool. Like the violinist got to be literally part of the bass, and also you created some new percussion instruments.
Yeah. So in this piece in the ensemble, I created some microtonal boom whackers, and they were made of long plastic tubes that were supposed to be for putting those long, light bulbs inside. But if we took out the light bulb and only had the tube, then it sounds like a boom whacker. So boom whackers are tubes that you hit something with, or you hit the tube onto something, and it has a pitch. And so with these microtonal boom whackers, I could tune the boom whackers so that they were all quarter tone apart. And the surprising thing is, or the wonderful thing about that is that that sound is very similar to double bass pizzicato sound. So you hear, Julia play the quarter tonal pizzicati, and then that sound is echoed in the ensemble over two different players. So you can actually hear the sound sonified over a distance, like a spatial sonification of it. And also just like slightly weird in a way that it's like, oh, it's like the double bass pizzicato, but it's not really. So there's like hints, sonic connections between the super bass and the ensemble.
It was also such fun to play this piece, really, and to experience different sounds we actually never created before. Can you tell a couple of effects that you especially created for this piece, besides the microtonal boomwhackers?
So I think one of the things about this piece was that I wanted to create a place that was a little bit disillusioned. And for me, musically, that almost feels like it's not supposed to be a piece that you can count to. In a lot of pieces that we play, we always like, have like beats that are regular, and that is pretty easy to get locked into a rhythm or some sort of a metric groove. So in this piece, I really wanted to take that and throw it out. And some of the things I did to do that was the tempo is rather slow, right? So we are all subdividing, but as we all subdivide, I think our subdivisions are kind of not completely exact, even though we try to be, because that's the way very, very slow music is, right? It's very difficult to subdivide and to be together. And I think that already gives the effect of the piece being kind of tense, because everyone is just like, oh my God, I'm subdividing. I have to like count, this much. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing about time or meter is that I used a lot of non-dyadic time signatures, which even Bob said he hasn't really played with that before, and so it was really fun to see the ensemble and everyone like learn that together. But what non-dyadic meters are time signatures that do not subdivide with the number 2. So 4/4 is dyadic, 2/2 is dyadic. Any multiple of 2 in the base, or not in the base, in the denominator is dyadic. But once we get to 4/3, where a whole note is subdivided into 3, and what we get is a half note triplet, then we start to get into places that musicians don't really train for, and that becomes a little bit more awkward in addition to the very slow tempo. So like the essence of time in this piece is constructed strangely so that you get this feeling of being rather disillusioned and you cannot really figure out where you are in time. So yeah, those are some things I did in this piece to throw you guys off, basically.
It was very interesting to learn about non-dyadic meter. For sure, I've never experienced before, but now
same.
It was really interesting to learn about it. And also, the microtonality is quite unusual for many players, and it was also really, really interesting to experience that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like microtones because as a bass player, and Julia will know this, we have so much space in between each note, and I feel like it's such a waste if we don't really make use of all these other notes that we can get in between a semitone for bass. So, as a bass player, I started learning a lot about microtones and playing a lot of microtones. I'm working on a microtonal set of etudes for bass so that we can make use of this beautiful thing that's microtones in the bass, and also because, most bass players don't use this ring finger. So it's such a waste that I don't use this ring finger. So I need to write something to train up my ring finger so that I can do something with it. So that's kind of how I started first playing around with microtones. And then because this is a super bass thing, right? And Sini also had to play microtones. And it's like, for you it's very difficult because between each semitone in the violin, there's like hardly any space, like a little I wouldn't even say you need to move your finger, but you just like turn
Yeah.
it a little bit and it's like a completely new sound. So the juxtaposition of microtones in the highest registers and in the lowest registers was something I also thought was very interesting. In that different parts of the string sound has a different quality because of how microtones are on your instruments. So that was really fun. And I'm sorry if it made it really difficult. But I
We
sounded
like
really
challenges.
good. Yeah.
So, if you are interested in a beautifully written piece with microtones and interesting instrumentation and super bass, please go and buy this CD, Strings and Hammers with the McCormick Percussion Group. And the CD itself is called Strings and Hammers. And Emily Koh is one of the composers, and so you can listen to other pieces as well on this CD. Anthony Green's Piano Concerto, Eduardo Costa-Roldan's Pulsar, Memento Mori by Emily, and an Ice Concerto, and by Sini Hadi.
Jarkko Hartikainen.
Thank you. And Alessandro Annunziata's Apollon. So it will be available July 10th, and you can buy it online as a CD or probably also as an MP3. And it was published by Ravello Records. Okay, so thank you for talking to us, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.